Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night to you lovely folks joining me here nice and early over at Marvel Snap Zone. Welcome back for some more dedicated YouTube content for everyone's favourite card battler, Marvel Snap. We're back today with some theory crafting, with some deck lists for the upcoming Series 4 pool of cards. We're going to take a look at these all together and show you a little bit about what me, Den, and the rest of the team here over at Marvel Snap Zone think might be some really sweet starting points for these cards from Series 4, if you're lucky enough to have access to them really early in release, after the patch comes out. Marvel Snap, if you're not familiar, just hit us with a massive announcement earlier this week, revealing there will be 17 new cards that are joining the game in the coming weeks. Obviously, everyone is buzzing around new cards, rightfully so, so considering there are some gems in both Series 4, I should say, and Series 5, we've decided we're going to do 2 videos and 2 articles over the course of the next few days, going over several deck lists that have been created for this occasion, looking to showcase each card's potential and highlight their best allies and best combinations. The Series 5 article and video will be coming in the next few days, so if you're more excited about Galactus or Thanos, don't worry, we'll have you covered there as well. However, today is going to be for Series 4. On a personal note, I am super excited about Absorbing Man, who looks like a Mystique for the On Reveal strategy. With Cosmo and Enchantress already roaming the ladder and punishing Wong, the card might arrive in a somewhat unfriendly metagame, but its potential is super exciting nonetheless, and Luke Cage is the other card I am most excited about in this series, as it feels like a support to an unpopular archetype with Hazmat, and could lead to a brand new archetype rising or a brand new version of that deck, which is a great thing in a card game. Please feel free to drop your creations down below or in our community Discord server if you prefer. Drop a link over there in the description box down below if you want to come and join in and let us know what you will be chasing when Series 4 arrives. A small disclaimer here, of course, none of these decks have been tested at this point for obvious reasons. So see the shared builds as a support here, not, we want people to discuss concepts, discuss ideas, potential play patterns. The refined builds will be shared later on when we've had time to actually get hold of and play with these cards, so do take everything in this video with a pinch of salt. However, if you are enjoying the content here at Marvel Snap Zone, do me a favour, hit that like button, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Every little helps in us growing over here to keep creating more content for this fantastic game. So thank you to all the subs. If you want to support us a little more, you want to show that we are doing a good job, please consider becoming a member of the channel. We've got some badges and emotes available for you guys already if you want to show your love for everything we're doing over here for a small fee each month. So check it out, we would really appreciate that. Enough of this, on to deck lists. Let's take a look at, first of all, the Helicarrier. So if you're not familiar with the Helicarrier, it is a 6 cost card with 10 power that simply says when you discard this card from your hand, replace it with 3 random cards. Now straight away, we're wondering if this gives some life to the Collector, a card that has unfortunately been a little bit in the shadows since that previous nerf of its abilities in a patch not so long ago. So we are wondering, hey, can the Helicarrier help us out with that? If you've been reading our weekly tier list, you'll know that we've been ranting and raving on about the discard archetype being a somewhat unrefined deck and there still being room for it to grow, looking for the kind of like perfect final 1 or 2 cards to really put it together. For those who played back in the beta, the Collector was a staple in discard decks, but it was when the card had like a Morbius-like effect, when it was gaining 2 power for every card that entered our hand. Even if Swarm and Apocalypse can raise it to a 5 power card, that often just isn't good enough for it to be played right now. Fast forward to the Helicarrier now being announced in Series 4, the Collector can reach 7 power more reliably, putting the card back in the same category as Angela, among some of the best 2 cost cards the game has to offer. As for the Helicarrier itself, good lord, the card could bring some flexibility to the deck, giving you some tools to work with in games where you aren't drawing into Apocalypse. And 10 power isn't so bad to pull in to play off of Lockjaw either, if that's all you want it to do. The problems start to arise when you have both Helicarrier, I'm going to do that like 6 times, aren't I? And Apocalypse in hand, obviously, because you're going to want to favour Apocalypse every single time with your Lady Sif. The added cards could also be an issue in making it harder to discard Swarm to a card like Colleen Wings, but the situation might be just fine. It might not be fine to run the card in a discard build, but we are definitely looking forward to trying out. Overall, Den is skeptical of this one in the long run, but it could lead to a very fun discard deck that creates some more unpredictable moments, which of course is great for content. So this one, very sweet. Hopefully Helicarrier has the ability to thrive in a deck like this moving forward, as it is a really sweet card with a lot of stats, so here's hoping. On to our next one. This one featuring a handful of new cards, 3 of them in fact. Simply put in the article, is it Devil Dinosaur's birthday? Oh my god. Tons of new tools coming into effect here for Devil Dinosaur in this patch, which is great to see. We are very excited to see all kinds of new cards that might make this card thrive even more inside of the Series 3 gameplay at the top of the Infinite Ladder. So, if we had to name one card that gained the most, it's probably Devil Dinosaur. Among the 10 new cards, 3 of them seem to have direct synergy with the big red monster that's been nerfed twice already since the beta. So we guess it's only natural to throw them all in the same deck and kind of see what happens, which is very much the thought process here. We admit that we kind of added Nick Fury for the theme, and maybe it should be a card like Magic instead. Perhaps Moon Girl or another strong ongoing effect has a better synergy instead of the Shield Leader. But in this build, the idea is to be able to have a full hand for our Devil Dinosaur, or reduce the cost of all the cards that we generate and create some magic with them along the way. Maximizing hand space is important for this one. The main play pattern would be to play Devil Dinosaur on turn 5, and then Mystique plus Lady Sif on turn 6, ideally discarding the Helicarrier. This should create 2 locations with around 17 power on each, not counting anything you did in the first 4 turns of the game. You can then also, of course, just play with your created cards. With Quinjet and Sarah being in the deck, it's very possible to create some really silly turn 6s with a deck like this, reducing cards down to a very small price, mostly cards you created with Agent 13, Maria Hill, or Agent Coulson. In this scenario, we could even think about using Mystique to copy Quinjet early to create some even more crazy discounts. So looking to abuse Maria Hill to generate 1-cost cards, Agent Coulson to make you a 4 and a 5-cost card, and of course the Helicarrier to fill up your hand on the final turn of the game in this really sweet looking Devil Dinosaur list for you next. Okay, for us next, She-Hulk Death. This is a deck that's been getting a lot of attention in theory when it comes to, hey ho, what are we doing with Series 4 cards? She-Hulk stands out as a card that can be fundamentally broken in shells that already abuse Death with Wave. Death Wave, a deck that's evolved a lot over the last couple months. Nowadays it's branched into some separate archetypes. We have things like Bayro and Deathpool being 2 separate ways of playing the deck. With She-Hulk joining the game, the original Death Wave build might be looking to make a comeback as it gains some amazing play patterns in the final turns of the game. In the Death Wave archetype, She-Hulk enables several combos as long as we manage to get some destroy effects off early on. If we play Wave on turn 5, one could look to play America Chavez, She-Hulk, and Death on turn 6 for a 31 power swing spread across 3 cards, Chavez costing 4, She-Hulk costing 2, and Death costing 0, which is some crazy, crazy stuff. With Moon Girl on turn 4 and Wave on turn 5, one could play She-Hulk, She-Hulk, Death once we've had as little as 2 destroy effects happen, or twice, Death once, I should say, sorry, if we've had 2 destroy effects happen, or twice if 3 or more have happened. That is a heck of a lot of points once again. If you just pass on turn 5, the deck can pretty happily play She-Hulk alongside any card in the deck other than America Chavez on turn 6, not quite as explosive, but still very, very strong. Or if you pass on turn 4, you can play Wave and She-Hulk on turn 5, which keeps the normal Death plus America Chavez play pattern on turn 6. I think this deck is really scary. I think the She-Hulk adds a lot of power to this existing archetype and gives you some ridiculous endgame plays, especially alongside a card like Moon Girl. This, in my opinion, is one to keep your eyes on, and I expect it to be quite the front runner heading into Series 4's release. Up next, the most exciting deck for me and Den in this patch. We're both very, very excited to see this one play out. Looking to abuse Luke Cage, which, of course, if you're not familiar, stops cards having their power reduced, alongside Absorbing Man, which will duplicate the last on reveal you played, and Hazmat to try and nuke the entire board for your opponent several ways, create negative power all across the board, while making sure that can't happen to you thanks to Luke Cage. The on-reveal decks have already received a pretty solid boost from Black Panther being the Battle Pass card in November 2022, but with Absorbing Man joining the game, I don't expect that trend to stop anytime soon. The card looks to be super impactful immediately on release, and as such, we felt like making another on-reveal deck was probably a bit too obvious, hence why we're looking to showcase this one that does something a little spicier. As stated in the introduction, Luke Cage is one of the cards that we're most happy to see joining the Marvel Snap collectible cards, because it can help other already existing cards to shine and realise an otherwise unused potential. Mostly Hazmat in this example, which is this deck's key card. The big problem with Hazmat until now has been the limiting factor of not being able to play cards that would later on be a detriment to your score. With Luke Cage now in the mix, we can freely add cards to our side of the board and get away from the classic green goblin play pattern, the only one that was available for a deck like this so far. Now we can use Debris to have cards on every location, a perfect ally to Ironheart later on, and enough of a card to focus on our combo for the rest of our deck slots. It frees up enough space to include all the usual suspects in the form of Odin, Serra, Magic, Mystique, and Wong. Onslaught could definitely be thrown into this deck if you wanted to, depending on how far you really want to push the combo element compared to more flexibility, as you probably have to find space for a card like Wave as well if you were looking to do something like that. The rest of the cards, unfortunately in Series 3, we don't have dedicated deck lists for, but we do have some ideas about where they might go if you're looking to enjoy Titania, M'Baku, Attuma, or Orka. So we're going to talk about that briefly here at the end of this video. Titania could definitely fit in the Hazmat deck if you wanted it to. If you're not familiar with its ability, any card is played at the same location as it will switch sides. It could be interesting to use this to give a card to your opponent, but 5 is quite a big number, and we'd need to see her quite early on, so I'm not sure how good that's actually going to be. Otherwise, she seems like a really solid addition in a deck like Serra Miracle, as revealing second on turn 6 means that you will be safe from her switching sides, and it makes her into quite the stat stick on that final turn of the game. M'Baku is a card that, if it's in your deck at the end of the game, will randomly leap onto a random location. It should be its best in Lockjaw, we think, as a way to throw it back into the deck before the game ends and have it come back out on itself of its own accord on turn 6. That seems like the best place for this. I've seen some conversations about sticking it in Kazoo as another way to get another body on the board in the final turns of the game. I'm not quite as sold on that thought process, but it seems like a great cheap card to abuse alongside Lockjaw in a variety of decks. Attuma seems like a nice card in any deck that, quite frankly, has armor. It does simply say, if you have another card here at the end of the turn, destroy this, which is, of course, a pretty negative downside for a card, but 10 power on a 4-cost card is quite the insane rate. Armor alongside this should make it quite easy to include in a number of decks currently. The Destroy synergy is currently pushing a lot of decks to run armor anyway, so it makes sense that Attuma will find a home in a number of those strategies. Last but not least, unfortunately, Orka, arguably the most disappointing card of the bunch. It looks like it's mostly a heavy hitter with a limiting condition. Seems like it has slightly less power than a card like Destroyer, so we expect it to fill kind of a similar role without the need to play Armor, Cosmo, or Professor X in your deck to protect your other cards from being destroyed. It seems like it would be a pretty reasonable end game finisher in a strategy that's happy to play one card to a location and have it lock things up. That is our best thoughts for Orka right now. Overall, most of the cards that have been added in Series 4 appear to be very playable, with some of them potentially shaking up entire archetypes. It's no doubt the metagame is going to be turned upside down when these cards are live and available to play with. We know nothing will make up for the cards not being collectible yet for many players that don't have luck or current collection status, but we hope a few of these ideas help you project into what can be done with these cards and give you something to look forward to. There are many more ideas from various content creators for all of these cards, and shared on our Discord and our social media, so feel free to share yours as well if you like, or go and check those out wherever you prefer, in Discord, Twitter, social media. Just come and tag us wherever you like at Marvel Snap Zone. We do guess, however, the only thing to do for now is enjoy the excitement around such a large announcement and potentially wait and patiently wait until we can get our hands on these shiny new toys. Until then, I have been HowlingMines. You have been amazing. Thank you for all the love, and I'll see you again very soon for more things here at Marvel Snap Zone. Have a good one.